Welcome to the Stoic Tide. They knew you loved them. They knew you were loyal. They knew you showed up every time, even when you were the one bleeding inside. They knew your silence wasn't apathy. It was discipline. They knew your patience wasn't ignorance. It was emotional intelligence. And yet they still did what they did. Why? Because people like that don't hurt you by accident. They hurt you because they can, because they think kindness is a weakness, because in their broken world, loyalty is something to exploit, not protect. Stoicism teaches us that we can't control others, only how we respond. But make no mistake, choosing peace is not the same as being blind. They gaslighted you, then turned around and acted like nothing happened. They smiled while twisting the knife and expected you to thank them for being honest. They ghosted you when you needed them the most and justified it by blaming your energy. And the worst part, they didn't expect consequences. They thought you'd take it again. They thought you'd shrink again. They thought they'd come back when they got bored or lonely and you'd be waiting. But not this time. Because the moment you stopped explaining, the moment you stopped defending your truth was the moment the power shifted. Let's be honest, some people are never sorry for what they did. They're only sorry they got caught. They don't regret the pain they caused. They regret losing control over you. So here's the Stoic truth. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Marcus Aurelius and Real Living. It begins when you stop tolerating fake love, performative apologies, and emotional manipulation. You see, karma doesn't always show up with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it shows up quietly in the form of emptiness, a hollow feeling they can't shake, a silence louder than any scream, a mirror they can't look into without flinching. That's what happens when someone knowingly hurts a person who was real, a person who meant it, a person who would have gone to war for them, but instead got used as target practice. Let that sink in. They messed with someone who had nothing but love and loyalty to the power of walking away quietly give. And when karma comes for them, and it will, it won't feel like punishment. It'll feel like a void, a haunting, an echo of what they lost and can never get back. And you won't have to lift a finger because the strongest souls don't fight for revenge. They rise, they level up, they become untouchable. That's what they never saw coming. That's what they never prepared for. They knew what they were doing. They just never thought you'd wake up and walk away. Let them feel the absence they created, because when karma finally delivers the message, it writes it in silence and signs it with your glow. They thought they got away with it. They thought no one saw what they did behind closed doors, how they manipulated, twisted, took advantage, and walked away clean. But here's the thing they never understood. The universe may be silent, but it is not blind. You see, karma doesn't move on your timeline. It moves with precision, with elegance, with patience, like a sniper calm. Still but deadly accurate time discovers truth. Seneca. And when the time is right, karma doesn't knock, it kicks the door in. They may laugh today. They may flaunt their fake success. They may post their highlight reel for the world to see. But karma doesn't watch the surface, it watches the soul. It remembers the way they ignored your cries for help, the way they mocked your vulnerability and spun it into gossip, the way they treated your loyalty like it was a joke, like it was disposable. Karma doesn't forget. It keeps receipts for every lie they told while looking you in the eye, for every night you lost sleep wondering what you did wrong, for every time you swallowed your pain just to keep the peace. Karma was documenting it all. But here's where it gets even more poetic. Karma doesn't always hit them with the same weapon they used. No, it chooses the one that hurts them most. They made you feel invisible. Now they're drowning in loneliness. They mocked your ambition. Now they're stuck in a cycle of failure and can't explain why. They broke your heart for sport. Now they're in a relationship that drains their soul and poisons their peace. That's karma. Not loud, not flashy, just accurate. And no, you don't have to witness it. You don't need proof. You don't even need closure because the Stoic doesn't need to see justice. The Stoic knows justice will come. That's the power of detachment. Don't seek revenge. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Marcus Aurelius. So while they're spiraling in regret, you're rising in silence, healing in private, living with purpose. And the beauty of it all, they start to remember not just what they did, but who they lost. They remember the one who listened, the one who stayed, the one who saw their darkness and chose to love them anyway. Why Stoics never seek revenge, and that's when karma speaks the loudest. Not through chaos, but through clarity. It whispers in their mind at night. When they're alone with nothing but guilt and the ghost of your loyalty, it taps them on the shoulder when life falls apart. And they wonder, why me? And karma answers back, because you touched a rare soul with dirty hands. Let that truth echo. Karma doesn't show up when you're watching. It shows up when they least expect it in the exact area of life they thought was safe. So don't chase justice. Don't waste your peace trying to prove your pain. Just keep building, keep evolving. Keep planting seeds of integrity and purpose because the universe, it keeps receipts, and one day it cashes in with interest. They thought you were just a chapter in their story, but they didn't realize they were just a lesson in yours. They laughed when you were quiet. They smirked when you walked away instead of arguing. They thought your silence meant weakness, that your peace meant surrender. But here's the truth they never saw coming. Silence is not the absence of power. It's the control of it. You didn't react. You didn't explode. You didn't play their game. And because of that, they thought they won. They didn't realize that the real loss wasn't yours. It was theirs. Because now as they sit with the consequences of their actions, they're not just haunted by what they did. They're haunted by who you were. A guilty conscience never feels secure. Seneca had started small. A memory. A name, a place you used to go together, and suddenly the mask slips, the noise fades, and what they're left with is regret. Not the kind that passes with time. The kind that lingers. The kind that shows up at 2 a.m. when they're staring at the ceiling, wondering how they lost someone who would have gone to war for them. Because you weren't average. You weren't fake. You weren't perfect, but you were real, solid, loyal, and that kind of person. You don't get a second one. They burned a bridge they didn't think they'd ever need again. They mistook your calm energy for emptiness. They mistook your restraint for a lack of options. Now they know better, but it's too late. That's the burn they never saw coming. Not the punishment from you. Not the revenge you never served. Number is waking up every day knowing they ruined the one thing that could have healed them. It's watching you level up from a distance, unable to touch the life you're building without them. It's scrolling through your name and hesitating because they know that text will never get a reply. It's seeing the glow in your spirit, the peace in your silence, and realizing that should have been my peace too. But they traded that peace for ego. They chose chaos over character. And now they're choking on the consequences. They'll try to act fine. They'll pretend to be happy. They'll keep up appearances, but the glow up hurts more when it's not yours. Let karma do what you cannot. They'll date replacements, people who look good on the outside but can't touch your depth. They'll chase validation, but it won't fill the space your presence used to occupy. Because here's the truth. You were the light in their dark. And now that you're gone, everything feels dim. That's the burn. Not the punishment, not karma's slap, but the silent sting of losing something they thought would always be there. And the irony, you didn't have to lift a finger. You didn't expose them. You didn't destroy their reputation. You just moved in silence, healed in peace, and let life do what life always does. Reveal the truth. So while they sit with their guilt, you sit with your growth. While they replay the past, you're creating a future they were never built to be part of. You're becoming stronger, calm, sharper. The very storm they thought would break you, built you. Let them burn in the fire they lit. Not because you want revenge, but because that's how the universe balances itself. That's the burn they never saw coming. They expected you to fight, to shout, to post, to throw mud just like they did, because that's what people used to chaos always expect. They want a scene. They want your attention, because in their mind, attention, even negative, is power. But you gave them nothing. No closure, no breakdown, no explanation, just distance. And that, my friend, is what destroyed them the most. Never wrestle with pigs. You both get dirty, but the pig likes it. George Bernard Shaw. You don't rise by throwing hands. You rise by walking away and never looking back. See, when you outgrow someone, it's louder than any revenge. You stop chasing closure. You stop proving your worth. You stop trying to show them what they missed because you become what they missed. You become the healed version of yourself. The one that no longer reacts to low-frequency energy. The one that doesn't need to clap back because your growth is the loudest response of all. They mistook your peace for passivity, but they didn't know peace is discipline. It takes strength to say nothing when your name is in their mouth. It takes emotional intelligence to let go of battles that only drag you backward. It takes power to let karma speak while you remain silent. Let's be real. The clap back might feel good for a second, but it's not what builds your future. And you're not in this for petty points. You're in this for long-term peace, long-term power, long-term growth. Because while they're out there stuck in gossip, you're out here stuck in your grind, elevating, glowing up, becoming someone they don't even recognize anymore. That's how you win. You want revenge, level up. You want justice, outgrow them so completely their name feels small when it comes up. Because here's what they won't tell you. When they can no longer access you, they start creating stories about you. When they see you doing better, They'll say you switched up. Let them. The calmness that destroys your enemies gossip about the person you used to be because the person you've become, they don't even know them anymore, and they never will. Outgrowing people isn't about bitterness, it's about clarity. You finally see that some people were distractions wrapped in connection. You finally realize that not every history deserves a future, and not every apology deserves a reply. You must understand that when you're no longer reactive, you become powerful. Marcus Aurelius. So don't clap back, don't chase, don't beg for closure. Closure doesn't come from their remorse. It comes from your release. Release the story. Release the hurt. Release the version of you that tolerated what you now realize was never love, only control. Because every second you spend trying to prove a point to someone who's committed to misunderstanding you is a second stolen from your growth. Let karma do the talking. Let your peace be the proof. Let your glow be the evidence. They wanted a reaction. Give them your absence. They wanted to break you. Show them your resilience. They wanted to be remembered. Make them irrelevant. Because when you grow, truly grow, you don't even think about getting back. You're too busy getting ahead. And one day they'll hear your name. They'll see you in rooms they can't enter, living a life they swore you'd never have without them. And in that moment, they'll know you didn't clap back.
You elevated.
You outgrew them. You won. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Marcus Aurelius. But even better than that, to become so elevated, they're not even your enemy anymore. They're just part of your past. They always come back. Not always with flowers, not always with an apology, but they return in thoughts, in regret, in silence. When the dust settles, when the noise fades, when the fake replacements don't measure up to you, that's when it hits them. You don't know what you have until it's gone. Cliché maybe, but painfully true for those who played games with a pure soul. Let's be clear. Their regret is real, but their regret is not your responsibility. They lost access to you the day they underestimated your value. The day they lied to your face and smiled while doing it. The day they looked at your loyalty and saw it as leverage. They weren't blind. They were selfish. And now that you're healing, now that you're glowing, now that you're walking in self-worth and no longer begging to be seen, they realize what they lost. But that's their lesson, not your load. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them explanations. You sure as hell don't owe them a second chance. Because regret often shows up after the damage is done. After they've drained you, after they've lied about you, after they've replaced you only to realize they traded a diamond for dust. Let's talk about emotional intelligence for a second. True emotional intelligence means understanding the difference between compassion and self-abandonment. You can feel bad for them without inviting them back. You can understand their pain without making their pain self-control. The ultimate Stoic weapon, your priority. Forgiveness is your gift to yourself, not an invitation to reopen doors that should stay locked because regret is heavy. It creeps in at 2 a.m. It whispers when they scroll through old messages. It stings when they see you shine and know they had front row seats and wasted them. Out again, that is their storm, not yours to stand in. You are no longer the savior in their story. You're not the fixer. You're not the one who sacrifices yourself just to make them comfortable. That chapter is closed. Boundaries are not walls. They're bridges to inner peace. That's psychological boundaries in action. The quiet, unshakable knowing that protecting your peace matters more than proving a point. Because every time you let someone back in who's only sorry because karma hit, you're telling the universe, I don't believe I deserve better. But you do. You deserve to be around people who don't need to lose you to realize your value. You deserve relationships that are built on respect, not repair. You deserve love that doesn't come crawling back only after life taught them the hard way. Let them regret. Let them replay everything they did wrong in their head. Let them watch you from a distance, realizing they no longer have a seat at your table. Because this version of you, this version has grown. This version respects time, energy, alignment. This version doesn't shrink to make others feel comfortable. This version understands that high-performance mindset isn't just about career. It's about standards. You raised yours, and now the same people who once took you for granted can't even get your time. The pain they caused taught you boundaries. Their absence taught you clarity. So know their regret is not your redemption arc. You don't need their apology to validate your growth. You don't need their sadness to feel like you've won. You already won. You chose healing over hostility, peace over pettiness, elevation over explanation. They regret losing you, but you don't regret letting go because what they lost was rare. But what you gained, that's sacred. And no one can take that from you. Let's clear something up once and for all. Forgiveness does not mean they were right. It does not mean you're weak. And it definitely does not mean you're letting them back in. Forgiveness is not about them. It's about you. It's about cutting the emotional cord that keeps you tethered to what they did. It's not approval. It's release. Assilent rebellion against the weight they tried to bury you under. You see, emotional intelligence isn't just knowing how to manage your emotions. It's knowing which emotions to stop feeding. Hate is heavy. Bitterness is loud. Resentment will rob you of your own peace while the other person goes on with their life oblivious. You think when you stop reacting, you start winning. Holding on is power. But in truth, letting go is the ultimate flex because it means you're no longer reactive. You're no longer attached. You're no longer giving your energy away to people who never deserved it in the first place. He who angers you controls you. Epictetus. Forgiveness, then, is self-mastery. It's emotional sovereignty. It's you choosing to rise above the chaos, not because you couldn't fight, but because you've mastered the art of not needing to. It takes spiritual discipline to forgive someone who never apologized, to wish them peace and still shut the door forever. To remember what they did, fill every scar they left behind, and still say, I'm moving forward, not for you but for me. Let's talk real for a second. You don't get stronger by pretending it didn't happen. You get stronger by feeling the weight, by sitting in the ashes, by healing with eyes wide open and still refusing to carry the bitterness into your future. Because carrying their offense in your mind is like letting them live in your head, rentrée. Every time you think of them with anger, you give them power they don't deserve. Power over your thoughts, power over your energy, power over your ability to move on. Forgiveness says no more. No more replaying the betrayal. No more reliving the pain. No more sacrificing your joy at the altar of their mistakes. That's not healing. That's imprisonment. And you were never meant to live behind the bars of someone else's decision. Forgiveness is how you break free. But let's be clear, forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Forgiveness is inner peace. Reconciliation is a privilege and one they lost. Forgiveness means you no longer wish them harm, but you also no longer invite them into your space. You no longer explain yourself. You no longer make room at your table for someone who once poisoned your food. That's not cruelty. That's wisdom. That's psychological resilience. The Stoics taught that the only thing you truly control is your response. Not the event, not the betrayal, not the person. And in choosing peace over revenge, you reclaim your power. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover the prisoner was you. Lewis B. Smees. Here's what most people don't tell you. Forgiveness is a process. Some days it's easy. Some days it's a battle. Some days the memory hits like a wave. But over time, those waves get smaller. Why? Because you've stopped feeding them. The emotional storm begins to settle. The triggers lose their fire and you begin to breathe again fully deeply because your identity is no longer built around what happened to you, but how you rose from it. This is what high-performance mindset looks like on the emotional level. It's not just about productivity. It's about emotional clarity, spiritual detachment, freedom from inner conflict. Marcus Aurelius on inner peace and dignity. That's why forgiveness is for you. So forgive. Not because they deserve it, but because your future does. Let go. Not because you're weak, but because your peace matters more than their punishment. Heal not to prove anything to them, but to unlock the version of you that pain tried to bury. And when you do, you won't need revenge. You won't need to clap back. Your silence will say it all. They'll see you shine. They'll see you soar. And they'll know exactly what they lost. Because karma is a mirror, and forgiveness it's freedom with a crown. You may not see it. You may never hear about it. But believe this, the universe keeps receipts. Every action, every betrayal, lie, manipulation leaves a ripple, a digital trace in the fabric of existence. You don't need to chase justice. You don't need to scream your truth because truth echoes. The Stoics taught us not to rely on hope or vengeance, but on the natural order of things, and in that order, nothing goes unaccounted for. People who move through life inflicting damage on others believe they're untouchable. They think they've gotten away with it just because no lightning bolt struck them down. But karma, real karma, doesn't strike like thunder. It whispers, it waits, and it hits in perfect silence. Here's the brutal beauty. Karma doesn't chase. It doesn't threaten. It watches patiently, precisely. And when it moves, it doesn't miss. Because the harm they caused, it doesn't vanish. It cycles. What goes out comes back. Not always through the same path, but always through some path. And usually when they least expect it. You see, what most people misunderstand about karma is that it's not punishment. It's correction. It's life-restoring equilibrium. It's nature enforcing a spiritual law. You don't get to walk away from destruction and still live in peace. People who disrespect others, lie, cheat, manipulate, They may appear to thrive, but if you look closer, they're not winning. They're running. They're compensating. They're stuck in cycles they don't understand. They lose peace of mind. They attract chaos. They sabotage themselves with the very darkness they tried to inflict on others. No man can escape his own soul. Marcus Aurelius. That's why Stoicism teaches you to stay still, to observe, to trust the process of the universe more than your own emotional impulse. Because what if your silence is the loudest sentence they'll ever hear? You don't have to confront them. You don't have to prove they were wrong. You just have to get out of the way and let the law of cause and effect do its job. And it always does, because the energy you release is the energy that returns. If they sent you deceit, manipulation, and cruelty, it will circle back. It may come in the form of broken trust in their next relationship. It may come as mental chaos they can't escape. It may how to detach emotionally from betrayal come through loss, exposure, loneliness, or simply waking up one day and realizing they can't outrun what they've become. And by then it's too late. That's the justice. Not public, not flashy, but internal, personal. Uniab. And here's the best part. When you stop obsessing over revenge, you heal faster. You grow deeper. You gain emotional intelligence that they'll never understand because you chose the higher road. You chose peace over pettiness, stillness over screaming, growth over getting even. And that choice makes you untouchable. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Marcus Aurelius. There's no need to announce your evolution. Just live it. Let your transformation be the billboard. Let your joy be the rebuke. Let your peace be the punishment. Eventually they'll notice. And when karma finally arrives, it doesn't need your help. It doesn't need your anger. It just needs your absence. So walk away in silence and strength and full control. Because the universe always balances its books. And no matter how long it takes, karma never forgets. When karma handles them, you don't need to look back. Because forward is where your life begins. And the truth is, they're not your problem anymore. Now comes the hard part. Not letting them take up space in your mind. Not letting the memory of what they did become the script of who you are. Because that's the real trap. You don't need their chaos to destroy you. All it takes is distraction. And if you're not careful, their ghost will haunt your goals. That's why focus isn't just about productivity. It's spiritual warfare. In a world addicted to drama, gossip, and noise, the most rebellious thing you can do is lock in. Lock in on your growth, your purpose, your peace, your elevation. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. You see, the people who hurt you, they don't just want to wound you. They want to distract you, even unconsciously. They want to leave fingerprints on your future by keeping you stuck in your past. But here's the Stoic truth. You owe them nothing. Not your pain, not your thoughts, not your focus. You are not defined by what happened to you. You're defined by what you do next. So ask yourself, what would your highest self be focused on right now? Because the more you focus on them, the less you focus on you. And that's the cost you can't afford. You've come too far. You've survived too much to let your energy be drained by shadows that no longer deserve your light. This is where emotional intelligence becomes your greatest weapon. It's not just the ability to regulate your emotions. It's the ability to say, that does not deserve my reaction. That does not belong in my world. That is not aligned. Silence and self-respect go hand in hand with who I'm becoming. That's not being cold. That's being in control. High-performance people protect their attention like warriors protect a fortress. They don't let just anyone walk through the gates of their focus because they know energy flows where attention goes. And if your attention is still stuck on what someone did to you, they're still winning. So it's time to take your power back. Not by fighting them, but by forgetting them. Not in the literal sense. You won't erase the memory, but you can erase the meaning. What happened was a lesson, not a definition. You are not the pain. You are the person who walked through it and came out with scars that turned into wisdom. Let them talk. Let them project. Let them lie to the world about who you were. You. You're too busy building the life you were born for. Every hour spent in bitterness is an hour stolen from your future. And your future is sacred. It's not for them. It's not for revenge, it's for your peace, your fulfillment, your evolution. So set psychological boundaries. Mentally block them like you would block a virus, because that's what resentment is. Emotional malware. It slows down your operating system. It crashes your vision. It freezes your growth. You don't rise by proving yourself. You rise by moving differently, by staying in your lane, by showing up every day, not for validation, but for mastery, for purpose, for inner clarity. You become so locked in that even if they scream your name in slander, you don't flinch. You don't hear it because your focus is louder than their drama. That's power. That's how warriors move. So if they hurt you, let karma deal with them. You deal with your vision. Deal with your greatness. Deal with the version of you that's too powerful to be distracted. Because the best revenge is to look so far ahead that when they try to find you, you're already in a place they can't reach mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That's Stoicism. That's strategy. That's strength. Let them stay where they are. You've got work to do. Forgiveness is not a welcome mat. It's a release, a gift you give to yourself, not an invitation you hand to them. Let's be clear, forgiveness doesn't mean they were right. It doesn't mean they deserve a second chance. And it definitely doesn't mean they've changed. Forgiveness is the decision to stop bleeding over wounds that they're no longer around to care about. It's a declaration. I will not carry this pain into my future. I will not let your actions define my emotional world. I choose peace over bitterness. That is power. That is spiritual discipline. But here's where most people fall. They confuse forgiveness with reconnection. They think moving on means moving back in. They reopen the door and walk straight into the same fire, hoping not to get burned. Let's fix that. A Stoic mind forgives because it refuses to be a prisoner of resentment. But it also remembers that the lion doesn't go back to the cage. Even after the door's unlocked, you can let go of what someone did without letting go of the lesson. Because here's what happens when you reopen the door. You're not just giving them access to your time again. You're giving them access to your energy, your boundaries, your peace. And once the universe always balances the scales, know you're willing to tolerate the same behavior again, they have no reason to treat you differently. Don't be that version of you again. Don't be the one who gave too many chances, who explained yourself too much, who made excuses for their disrespect. You've evolved. You've upgraded. You've outgrown the version of you that let them in the first time. Now you operate with emotional intelligence. You see through patterns, not promises. Through behavior, not words. You no longer fall for "I've changed." Because real change isn't a statement. It's a sustained shift in action. And until you see that over time, the door stays closed. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Maya Angelou, yes, it hurts. Yes, you miss who you thought they were. But don't confuse missing the memory with needing the person. Because you know what's worse than being hurt once, being hurt twice by the same person, because you ignored your own wisdom. Don't call that love, that's self-betrayal. Forgiveness is peace. Reconnection is a choice, one that must be earned it, not assumed. And even then, you can forgive and still never speak to them again. You can forgive and still block them. You can forgive and still say, "I wish you well, but far away from me." That's not bitterness. That's clarity. Because boundaries are how you love yourself. And closing the door isn't cruelty. It's courage. You're protecting the most sacred thing you have. Your emotional energy, your mental clarity, your inner peace. That's what Stoicism teaches. We don't control others. We control the space we allow them to occupy. So let them think what they want. Let them gossip. Let them weaponize your silence. It doesn't matter. You're not here to prove your growth. You're here to live it. And the more silent you stay, the louder your new life becomes. So forgive them. But remember why the door was closed in the first place. Your peace costs too much to invite chaos back in. Let karma speak. Let life teach them what your silence already has. And you walk forward, ket-focused, untouchable. That is healing. That is power. That is freedom. You don't have to clear your name. You don't have to explain your side. You don't have to prove you've healed. Your energy will say it all. There's a quiet force inside those who've been through hell and refuse to let it define them. It's not loud. It doesn't seek attention. But when it walks into a room, everyone feels it. That's what happens when you've turned your pain into wisdom. When you've chosen self-mastery over victimhood. When you've used betrayal not as a reason to collapse, but as fuel to evolve. And now you've become the version of yourself that those who hurt you never saw coming. See, most people expect you to stay broken. They count on the fact that their absence will destroy you. They expect you to beg, to explain, to chase. But you didn't, you turned inward. You sharpened your mind. You realigned your life. You built when they finally regret losing you discipline. Cultivated inner peace and protected your light like a warrior guards his fire. You didn't become cold. You became clear. Now you move differently. Your silence speaks louder than their noise. Your calm presence unsettles the chaos they once brought. Your energy, it radiates power not from arrogance but from alignment. You've stopped trying to convince people of your worth. You let your high-performance mindset do the talking. You let your consistency speak, your focus, your peace, your glow. Because that's the ultimate transformation. You stop reacting to your past and you start embodying your future. No more over-explaining. No more going back and forth. No more shrinking to fit spaces you've outgrown. You're not who you used to be. You outgrew the narrative they tried to lock you into. You rewrote your story not with revenge, not with rage, but with clarity, discipline, and purpose. That's what Stoicism teaches. You don't fight to be seen. You become undeniable. Let them talk. Let them gossip. Let them pretend like they didn't lose something rare. You're not chasing closure. You are the closure. You've already closed the chapter by becoming everything they said you couldn't. Now your presence is proof. Your peace is evidence. Your glow is the revenge. Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one Marcus Aurelius. So step into your next level with calm certainty. Walk like someone who no longer needs validation. Speak like someone who answers only to purpose. And love yourself like someone who has survived everything meant to break them, because that's who you are now, not the version they left behind, not the one they tried to reduce. You are the fire they couldn't extinguish, the soul they couldn't stain, the light they couldn't dim. So let your energy speak. Let your silence echo. Let your presence remind them of what they lost, not to hurt them, but to honor the version of you who rose. Your past, that's your fool. Your energy, that's your new language. And your life, that's the loudest statement you'll ever make. So now you know you don't need to final Stoic message, let karma speak for you scream. You don't need to chase closure. You don't even need them to apologize because karma is the closure. And while they sit in silence, haunted by what they lost, you walk in peace, guided by what you've become. They'll remember the pain they caused. You'll remember the power you unlocked. They'll feel regret. You'll feel reborn because the truth is simple. They messed with the wrong one. Not because you fought back, but because you didn't need to. You elevated. You evolved. You became the version of yourself that no betrayal could touch. Let them look back in silence. Let karma do what karma does best. And you keep rising. Keep walking in purpose. Keep protecting your energy. Keep living a life so aligned that no enemy can disturb your frequency again. Because this is not just the end of a chapter. This is the rebirth of your true self. If this message hit your soul, don't scroll away. Hit that like button to send it further. Subscribe for daily Stoic wisdom and life-transforming truths. And in the comments, drop a fire. If you've ever felt karma speak louder than your words ever could, the real ones will understand. Your story isn't over. It's just getting powerful.